Joining me now is Dr. Andrew Snyder. He's with Monash University. And for full disclosure, he also doubles as my brother. Andy, great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, that's my day job, Jeff, is your brother. So here
That,
I am talking to you. Exciting times in the drug discovery space.
absolutely. And my younger and smarter brother. So I'll give you that. Multiple degrees. We can go into that detail later. Mom and dad are very proud. All
Mm.
right, Andy. When I saw the news about a new pancreatic cancer drug, this is a big concern that I think a lot of people have. Traditionally, once you get pancreatic cancer, it's moved along to a very final stage. It's really hard to treat. This drug development, though, is revolutionary. What say you?
Jeff, revolutionary medicines is looking like they're succeeding in part where others have failed. And the change in life expectancy, the doubling of the survival statistics in this dreaded disease is quite noteworthy. The target that they are drugging here has long been associated with cancer and cancer biology for years and years and years. And through some innovative approaches, they are tackling this cancer and attacking this target in a very precise way.
So, what makes this? We've talked with you over the last few months about the drug development process. It takes years, years and years of trial and error. Then you have to go to clinical trials. What makes the development of this particular drug treating pancreatic cancer so revolutionary, so different than the traditional method?
So this story starts at a company right in our backyard here in Cambridge, Mass, called Warp Drive Bio. And this was spun out of Greg Verdine's group, where he was a chemist at Harvard and is a serial entrepreneur in the biotech space. And he had a novel approach to finding chemical matter for difficult to drug targets. And this was a twist and a turn where the company was sold in, if I can remember, 2018 to another company where this molecule was further developed and ultimately leads us to the phase 3 readout that came out in the New England Journal of Medicine a week or two ago. This twist and turn of the biology and the financing and ultimately gets to the point with conviction, both from the investigator point of view and the investor point of view, where we can realize these gains in the clinic.
So it seems like the investor goals, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from the outside looking in, the investor goals and the medical goals are kind of symbiotic. They're together, they're aligned. It's a lot quicker. Let's talk about clinical trials, though. How does this get to become mainstream? So someone, if I, God forbid, you, God forbid, someone that we know, God forbid, has pancreatic cancer, how does this get from where it is today into final approval and distribution to the people that need it most?
Well, yeah, there's a lot there, Jeff. So let's just talk about the trial itself. So
Okay.
the trial that was published was a multi-center international trial of heavily pretreated pancreatic cancer patients. There were 500 patients. Many of those patients had dysregulation in the RAS oncogene, which is a main driver in this cancer and was previously deemed to be undruggable. And so the way this trial was conducted is that roughly half of the people were put in this chemotherapy alone, and the other half are in chemotherapy plus this new medicine. And they follow those people, and ultimately they have a substantially different readout, 12 months into the study, where they can clearly see the benefit of the drug. Now, as far as approval, I believe this will be the study that gets them to the finish line, the so-called registration trials. But also there's now this therapeutic excuse me, this compassionate use case and all kinds of different cases where people, can use this in its existing form, I believe. This is just a single cancer that was studied in this trial. The company Revolution Medicine has additional clinical trials in other cancers where this RAS oncogene is deemed to be a driver as well. And so every time they do a trial in a specific patient population, they'll be able to understand whether this drug can affect the unmet need.
Right. And so there may be other cancers that it can treat. Or I would imagine, Andy, or Dr. Snyder, that this approach can be mirrored by other drug developers in order to find other, solutions to treating other chronic diseases.
Right. And so there's obviously learnings for the entire field. A lot of these findings will be protected by intellectual property, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean you can't use the information to uncover your own drug discovery and therapeutic hypothesis for different targets. This is obviously a critical finding and advances the field quite rapidly.
So you talk to a lot of your peers in the industry. You go to conferences. That's part of your job function is to interact with your peers. What this has really created quite a bit of a stir. This is not like just a regular drug treatment or a clinical trial, right? This has created quite a bit of a buzz.
Yeah, this has been in the New York Times. There's obviously a former United States senator that suffers greatly with this disease, and he has benefited from this drug. Look, again, as I said at the outset, revolutionary medicines has succeeded where others have failed. They took a novel approach here. People have tried to drug RAS unsuccessfully because they've tried, a more traditional approach. This is a unique approach using a partner protein to drug RAS, and it seems to be working. Now, look, we'd love the overall survival to top out past 13.6 months, of course. But again, this doubling of the overall survival is substantial for the field. Uh,
Yeah. And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no,
Finish your thought.
no. Well, I say, and it's noteworthy there are obviously side effects with this drug. And so perhaps next generation medicines would mitigate that somewhat. But it's important to note that, but it's also important to note the high unmet need here.
So does the success of this, to use your words, novel approach, does this mean that let's talk about the money aspect of this for a couple minutes. The venture capital that goes behind the drug development or the M&A activity. Do you think that something like this, with the intellectual property, the development, the research, could actually speed up the flow of VC money towards drug remedies like we're discussing this morning?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I believe Revolution Medicines is a publicly traded company currently, so I don't know if the VCs hold any of that stock or not, but I
Okay.
can tell you anytime there are success stories, it's good for the industry. We're in the business of taking novel approaches, turning them into companies, and ultimately turning them into approved medicines that have therapeutic benefit in diseases with high unmet need. That is what we're doing. When we see the results of that, when they work, that can only be good for our industry.
I want to ask you about the technology. You and I have talked about artificial intelligence. Did it play a role here, maybe sifting through all the data sets? I would imagine that when you strip the DNA down or whatever, forgive me, I'm a layperson, but when you strip the data down, there's a lot of it. Does technology play an important role in addition to just the traditional clinical trials that people go through?
Jeff, that's a little bit of that's a difficult question to answer. I don't have a real big purview of the ins and outs of this program or this trial per se. I will say as a rule, people are using artificial intelligence to understand the entire clinical landscape here. How can we run trials faster? just getting the documentation done faster? How can we identify subpopulations of people that might be responders? There is an entire network of companies and individuals and consultants that are trying to apply AI to the clinical landscape as well in order to do things faster and get the answers more quickly for investors and for patients.
So it sounds like it's a little bit more than the Petri dish that we had in Mr. Wright's class back in 10th grade at Friends School.
Yeah, we still use the Petri dish, but we have a lot more than the Petri dish these days.
And of course, the fetal pig. Dr. Snyder, Andy, always great to see you. Thanks for some of the breaking news. Help break it down. And look, we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.